The only limit is yourself. Golden key to prosperity, the call to break free. Every one of us carries a spark of greatness, a latent power waiting to be unleashed. Yet, too often, we live confined by invisible walls, limits we've accepted as truth. These limits aren't physical barriers, they're stories we've internalized, rules we've adopted, and boundaries we've built around our potential. They come from our past, our fears, our failures, and the voices, both external and internal, that tell us who we are and what we can achieve. But what if these limits are not facts? What if they're choices we've made, consciously or not, that we can unmake just as easily? This is not a theoretical discussion or a fleeting burst of inspiration. This is a call to action, a challenge to confront the stories that hold you back and step into the truth of who you are. Greatness isn't reserved for a select few. It's not a distant prize you earn after years of struggle. It's within you right now, waiting for you to claim it. The only thing standing in your way is your willingness to question the limits you've accepted and your courage to act despite them. This journey is about dismantling those limits, rewriting your identity, and living from a place of power, purpose, and alignment. Let's begin by understanding where these limits come from and how we can break free. Body. Dismantling limits and embracing greatness, the origin of limits. Stories that shape us. Limits begin as stories. They start as whispers from our environment, parents, teachers, peers, or even a single moment of pain or failure. Maybe you were told you weren't smart enough, strong enough, or talented enough. Maybe a setback convinced you that you're not cut out for success. Over time, these whispers become louder, turning into narratives you repeat to yourself. They stop being suggestions and start feeling like rules. Eventually, these rules harden into walls that define the edges of your life. These walls feel real because they're reinforced by repetition, emotion, and belief. A failed exam becomes, "I'm not good at learning." A rejection becomes, "I'm not worthy of love." A financial struggle becomes, "I'll never be wealthy." These stories aren't just thoughts, they're identities you carry, shaping how you move through the world. But here's the truth, these walls are not concrete, they're not laws of nature. They're constructs you've built, which means you have the power to tear them down. The process starts with awareness. You can't dismantle a limit you don't see. Begin by asking, what stories am I telling myself? What rules have I accepted? Is truth? Maybe it's, I'm too old to start over, or I don't have what it takes to lead. Write these down. Look at them with curiosity, not judgment. Where did they come from? A parent's offhand comment, a teacher's criticism, a moment of embarrassment? Once you see these stories for what they are, temporary, not permanent, you can begin to challenge them. The power of choice, redefining your reality. The moment you stop treating your limits as facts and start seeing them as choices, your life begins to shift. Limits thrive on your loyalty to them. Every time you say, "I can't, I'm not enough," or "that's just how I am," you reinforce their power. But what if you chose differently? What if you decided that your standards, your identity, and your potential are yours to define? This shift requires a decision, a full-body commitment to stop living at half your capacity. It's not about perfection or having all the answers. It's about refusing to shrink into a version of yourself that feels safe but small. Greatness doesn't require permission or validation. It requires clarity and courage. You don't need to wait for the right moment or the right circumstances. You need to act now, in this moment, with whatever you have. Consider the alternative, staying loyal to your limits. Most people do this, not because they're weak, but because familiarity is seductive. It's easier to decorate your limits, justify them, and call them reality than to risk stepping into the unknown. Comfort feels like home, even when it's a prison. But you're here because you know there's more. You feel it, a restlessness, a pull, a whisper that says you're capable of something greater. That feeling is your potential knocking, urging you to stop negotiating with your limits and start dismantling them. Resistance as a door, not a wall. One of the biggest obstacles to breaking limits is resistance. Resistance shows up as fear, doubt, uncertainty, or discomfort. When you set a big goal, start a new venture, or try to change a habit, resistance is inevitable. Most people see resistance as a wall, a sign to stop, retreat, or lower their expectations. But resistance is not a barrier, it's a doorway. It's a signal that you're on the edge of transformation. From a young age, we're conditioned to avoid discomfort. We're taught to seek safety, chase approval, and avoid failure at all costs. So, when we encounter resistance, we assume something's wrong. We shrink our goals to fit our comfort zone, adjust our dreams to avoid disappointment, and settle for less than we're capable of. Over time, this pattern hardens into a belief: expansion is unsafe. But here's the truth. Your comfort zone is a trap. It promises protection, but delivers confinement. It keeps you from pain, but also from possibility. Everything extraordinary, every breakthrough, every dream, every version of yourself you aspire to become, lives on the other side of resistance. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't measured in talent or time. It's measured in your willingness to embrace discomfort. Think about the discomfort you've faced in the past. Maybe it was the uncertainty of starting a new job, the fear of speaking in public, or the pain of a failed relationship. Each time you pushed through, you grew. You expanded your capacity, not because you avoided discomfort, but because you moved through it. Resistance is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's a companion that shows up whenever you're about to grow. Building a relationship with discomfort to overcome limits, you must build a relationship with discomfort. This doesn't mean you have to love it or seek it out unnecessarily. It means recognizing discomfort for what it is, a signal of growth, not a stop sign. When you feel fear, uncertainty, or failure, don't run from it. Lean into it. Breathe through it. Ask yourself, what is this discomfort teaching me? How is it preparing me for the life I want? Discomfort takes many forms. It might be the uncertainty of not knowing how things will turn out. That's okay. Greatness doesn't come with a map. It might be rejection, people doubting your vision, or walking away from you. That's okay. You don't need their approval to evolve. It might be failure, falling short, making mistakes, feeling like you've wasted time. But failure is not the opposite of growth. It's the price of admission. Every time you face discomfort and keep going, you cast a vote for a new identity. You become someone who doesn't quit, someone who grows, someone who thrives in the face of resistance. These votes add up. They don't have to be perfect. You don't need to win every day. You just need to show up consistently enough that your nervous system starts to trust the new story you're telling. Over time, this relationship with discomfort changes you. What once felt impossible starts to feel manageable. What used to intimidate you becomes familiar. Your tolerance for resistance grows, and your capacity expands. You begin to operate at a level that once seemed out of reach. This is how limits dissolve, not in one dramatic moment, but layer by layer through small, brave decisions repeated over time. The role of identity, who you believe you are. At the core of every limit is identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are. Your actions will always align with your identity in the long run. You can push yourself to work harder or try new things for a while. But if your internal story says, "I'm not good enough," "I always fail," or "I don't deserve success," you'll eventually return to that default. True transformation isn't about changing your behavior, it's about changing your identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, who never follows through, or who isn't capable, no amount of effort will sustain change. Your brain is wired to stay consistent with who you believe you are. So, to break through limits permanently, you must raise the bar on your identity. Start by telling a new story about yourself. This doesn't mean denying your past or pretending you're someone you're not. It means defining yourself by the future you're committed to creating, not the failures you've experienced. Instead of "I'm bad at public speaking," say "I'm learning to communicate with confidence." Instead of "I'm not disciplined," say "I'm becoming someone who follows through." At first, this new story might feel like a lie. That's normal. Your old identity was built through years of repetition, so it feels true, even if it's limiting. But identity is flexible. You built the current version of yourself through thoughts, choices, and habits, and you can rebuild a new version the same way. The key is consistency. What you say about yourself becomes the script your mind runs. Your subconscious doesn't care if it's accurate. It believes what it hears most. Language is the starting point, but identity is also built through evidence. Every time you take action that aligns with your new story, whether it's showing up when it's hard, stretching beyond your comfort zone, or choosing growth over ease, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. These actions don't need to be monumental. Small, consistent choices, like getting up early, finishing a task, or facing a fear, build a foundation of proof that you are who you say you are. Alignment. The key to sustainable growth. Breaking limits isn't just about effort. It's about alignment. When your vision, beliefs, and behavior are in harmony, growth becomes sustainable. Without alignment, even the hardest work will eventually collapse under the weight of self-conflict. You might white-knuckle your way through a season of change, but if your internal story doesn't match your external effort, it won't last. Alignment requires intention and reflection. You must regularly ask yourself, am I living from fear or from truth? Are my decisions based on who I was or who I'm becoming? Am I building a life I want or maintaining one I've outgrown? These questions demand honesty, and honesty takes courage. It's easier to stay busy, distract yourself, or pretend everything is fine. But misalignment is a slow poison. It shows up as fatigue, lack of focus, or a vague sense that something's off. To stay aligned, you must evolve with your goals. The mindset that got you here won't get you to the next level. The habits that served you last year might not be enough today. You have to be willing to let go of old patterns, even if they were successful, because the moment you outgrow them, they become your new limits. Letting go isn't failure, it's evolution. It's choosing to build a new version of yourself instead of polishing the old one. When you live in alignment, everything becomes clearer. You stop questioning your decisions, doubting your voice, or second-guessing your path. You move with conviction because you know who you are. This clarity doesn't mean life becomes easy, it means it becomes simpler. You waste less energy on distractions, comparisons, or approval. You focus on what matters, your vision, your values, and your growth. The discipline of greatness, a lifelong practice. Greatness isn't a destination, it's a discipline. It's a way of being that requires daily practice. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you risk slipping back into old limits. Many people plateau not because they've reached their capacity, but because they confuse progress with permanence. They mistake momentum for mastery and start coasting. Coasting feels good. It feels earned. You've worked hard, pushed through resistance, and achieved results. You deserve a break, right? But what you call rest might be retreat. What you call balance might be avoidance. If you're not careful, the growth you've built starts to stagnate. The higher you rise, the more discipline it takes to maintain what you've achieved. Success brings new pressures, more expectations, more eyes on you, more opportunities to lose focus. To avoid plateauing, you must stay honest with yourself. Ask, am I growing or just maintaining? Am I building or just defending what I've built? Am I living fully or settling into a comfortable version of average? These questions keep you sharp. They remind you that greatness isn't guaranteed. It's earned every day through the choices you make. Greatness also requires protecting your energy. The higher you climb, the more you must guard your mind, your time, and your decisions. Distractions, negativity, and old habits will try to pull you back. You have to be ruthless about what you allow into your space. Say no to what doesn't serve your vision. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, not shrink. Feed your mind with ideas that expand your perspective. The ripple effect. Greatness as contribution. At a certain point, greatness stops being about you. The breakthroughs you've achieved, the resilience you've built, the limits you've overcome. They're not just for your benefit. They're a responsibility to share. True greatness is measured not by what you achieve, but by how many people rise because you did. It's about impact, not image. Contribution, not applause. You don't need to be at the top to lead. You don't need a platform or a title. Sometimes all it takes is one conversation, one act of courage, one moment of authenticity that shows someone else what's possible. Your story can be someone's survival, your presence can be someone's permission. By living in alignment, you become a beacon for others, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. The paradox of contribution is that the more you give, the more you grow. Pouring into others doesn't deplete you, it deepens you. It brings purpose, peace, and a sense of abundance that no external reward can match. You stop chasing outcomes and start living from truth. You stop needing to prove yourself because your life is proof. This is the legacy of greatness. Not what you accumulate, but what you create for others. The way you show up, the way you love, the way you lead. It becomes a ripple effect that extends far beyond your immediate circle. You may never see the full impact of your contribution, but you can trust that it matters. Every time you choose to rise, you give someone else permission to do the same. Conclusion: the choice to live expanded. The journey to greatness is not a straight line. It's a series of choices, each one a chance to step closer to your potential or retreat into the familiar. Your limits, those stories, rules, and walls, are not your destiny. They're invitations to grow, to question, to transform. The only thing holding you back is your attachment to the old stories and your fear of the discomfort that comes with change. But you've felt the call. You know there's more to you than what you've lived so far. That knowing is your guide. It's the spark that lights the way, urging you to stop waiting, stop shrinking, and start embodying the greatness within you. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you've always been, unburdened by the limits you've carried. The lesson is clear. Your potential is not something you earn. It's something you activate. You activate it by choosing courage over comfort, alignment over distraction, and contribution over ego. You activate it by refusing to settle, by raising your standards, and by living in a way that honors the vision you hold inside. Every step you take, every limit you dismantle, every moment you choose to rise, you rewrite the story of who you are. So what will you do now? Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but right now. This is your life, and you don't get a second one. Choose expansion. Choose to live in a way that demands your potential to rise. Choose to lead, to contribute, to embody greatness in every breath, every choice, every moment. Because you are not the person who lives beneath their potential. You are the person who decides, who rises, who becomes. The only limit is your willingness to act. So act, live expanded, be great.